Hello and welcome to Module 8 in our series STL2 with C++. In today's session, we're going to write code to introduce our new sprite, the enemy bunny. Let's now look at the code we're going to write. We'll start by introducing our new sprite. We need to make sure that the enemy sprite appears on screen automatically without the user having to press any key. Movement of the sprite should be such that it moves from right to left towards the defender bunny. Movement of the enemy on the x-axis should be such that the enemy moves by any random number of steps between 2 and 5. Movement on the y-axis should also be random, but we need to make sure that the enemy does not move beyond the bounds of the height of our window. We will also make sure that the enemy stays within the width of our window. And in addition, we will time the appearance of the enemy on screen. Before we proceed, may I ask that you leave a like on this video. And if you're enjoying the series, do subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way in promoting the channel and also keeps me motivated to create more content like this. Thank you. Now back to the project. So to get started now, in your Windows search bar, type in VIS. From the project list, select yours and click once to open it up. We start by introducing our new sprite. We'll call that enemy sprite. And we need a texture, so that will be star enemy texture. Now to initialize the memory allotted to our new sprite, let's come to our main function. And we'll call memset, sending in the address of our new sprite. We need to set that region of memory to 0, size of the structure sprite. For the texture now, enemy texture equal to, and we'll call the load texture function, sending in the name and the path to the file. Now you will find this file at a link in the description of this video. Make sure to copy that file into your project folder before using it here. Then we set enemy sprite dot texture to enemy texture, and we'll also set enemy sprite dot isActive to false. Now, in order to manage both the origin as well as the movement of our new sprite, we will introduce a new function. I'm going to place that here. This function is not going to return anything, so that's going to be a void. Name of the function is generate enemy, and there's no parameters coming in, so void again. Now, like I said, we're going to time the appearance of the sprite, and therefore we'll introduce a new variable. We'll call it timer. So at the top, so as you can see, I've already introduced it. We need to initialize that timer to 0. We'll do that in our main function, right? So just come back to the main function. And here we will set timer to 0. Coming back now to our generate enemy function. This timer is going to count down. So we check if minus minus timer is less than or equal to 0, right? So for the first time, this will be a negative value. Then we will generate an enemy sprite. Now we will say enemy sprite dot x equal to, and remember we want the enemy to start out at the right side of the screen and then move from there towards the left. So we'll use screen width so that our enemy is positioned on the right side of the screen. Bringing it a little forward, so minus 200 and you can play around with this value. Enemy sprite dot y will be any random number within the bounds of our screen height. So modulo screen height. Then we check if enemy sprite dot y is greater than 600, right? Then we bring it back. So enemy sprite dot y equal to 600. Also, when we generate a new enemy, enemy sprite dot is active becomes true, right? Now what we will do is we will draw the enemy sprite on screen only if is active is true. Okay. Now outside this if construct, we will take care of movement. Remember, we want the enemy to move towards the defender bunny, right? So this part is taking care of generating a new enemy, meaning the enemy will be positioned at the starting point, which is the right side of the screen. And now we will take care of movement from the right side to the left. Okay, so here we'll say enemy sprite dot move x will be equal to, and that will be any random number. So rand modulo, which is between 2 and 5. So our upper limit is 5 plus 1 to include 5 minus 2 is our lower limit plus the lower limit. And of course, you could simplify this to 4, right? But I'll leave that to you. And because we are talking about horizontal movement, enemy sprite dot move y will be equal to 0, right? Then to change the origin to reflect movement, enemy sprite dot x. Now remember, it's moving right to left, so minus equal to enemy sprite dot move x, and enemy sprite dot y minus equal to enemy sprite dot move y. Now if the enemy is moving horizontally across the screen from right to left, we need to make sure that the enemy does not go beyond the left side of the screen, as in disappear from our screen, right? So what we'll do is we will put a check here. So if enemy sprite dot x is less than equal to 200, and you can play around with that 200 value, then we will set timer to 0 and we will return out of this function. So what will happen then for the next frame, because timer is 0, we'll generate a new enemy sprite and that will be positioned on the right side of the screen. So I hope that's clear. Now of course we've got to manage our timer. So here we'll say timer equal to, and that will be any random number, that's modulo, ranges between 30 and 60. So 60 is the upper limit, plus 1 to include 60, minus 30, the lower limit, plus 30, right? And that's it for our generate enemy function. Now we need to call this function. So in our main function, just before we call fire, we'll call generate enemy. Right, so our enemy sprite is generated. We need to actually draw it on screen, which means we have to call the blit function. And so here we'll check if enemy sprite dot is active is true, then we'll call the blit function, sending in enemy sprite dot texture, and enemy sprite dot x and enemy sprite dot y. Okay, and that's all. So let's run this now. So now you can see the enemy moving across the screen, and of course you can fire, but you see the egg goes behind the enemy, right? So we need to program this so that the enemy is killed when it comes in contact with our egg. Okay, also we need more enemies on screen. In the next session we'll see how to bring more enemies on screen. I leave you to play with this now. This ends our session for today. Till the next session, take care. Bye.